So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you coming here today, and I couldn't be more humbled with the invite to come and speak at this conference. So, uh, I actually was quite shocked at the fact that I, amongst all of the very well qualified individuals here in the room today, was selected and asked to come and do around like a 20-minute presentation on community risk reduction and where we're at in Iowa. A couple things. So, first thing, my name is Vince. Vince Lukart with the Grinnell Fire Department. I am the training officer there, as well as I held the assistant chief title for a little while. And also, as you can see, I am a professional coffee drinker. I'm one of those guys that continually likes to add letters after his name. You got NREMT, MSRP, ERMP, ALS, whatever. You put a bunch of letters after your name, but I'm not one of those guys that likes to share them. So, while I like to add those letters after my name and the education that comes with them, I don't really feel like it's necessary to really flounce those. So, I just like to throw up there that, I have my title and I'm proud of it. I worked hard to get there. And also, I'm very good at drinking coffee, which therefore makes me a self-proclaimed professional. So, having said that, who's this guy and why are we here? Well, who am I? Like I said, I'm Vince Lukart. I started in the Iowa Fire Service back in November of 2006 as a volunteer firefighter. I was sitting on the tailgate of a buddy's truck on break on third shift, working at Geltman, the door factory there in Grinnell, and I just happened to look in the back of his truck and I saw some turnout gear back there, and I immediately said, "You're a firefighter?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I volunteer." I said, "You can do that?" No idea, right? And I think that some of us probably got the same start that direction. And that's great, right? Because what have we seen? What have we seen over the span of that growth? So me, I'm working on 19 years. I'm on the downhill slide 20 right now. Some of us might be on the downhill slide at 30, maybe 40, who knows? Some of us might just be getting into this. Some of us may have come by our positions totally by accident. Some of us may have fallen into them through education. Some of us may have fallen into them through friends, family, whatever, But here's the big thing. We've seen a lot of changes in the fire service, especially in Iowa, okay, especially in the Midwest. I know this is a national conference. I respect all you guys. I respect where you're from. I can't wait to have some of those conversations later on in happy hour. I'm looking forward to that. But I've got a lot of experience in the Midwest. I've seen a lot of things over those 19 years. I've seen a lot of changes. And community risk reduction is one of those things that is constantly, constantly growing and becoming more and more prevalent in the fire service, right? So like I said, I'm a training officer, got my first instructor certification in 2013, and I just kind of grew it from there. Now I teach all kinds of EMS classes, citizen fire academies, you name it. And if you're wanting to learn more about it, I would be glad to teach you. That's kind of my motto. If I have people that come to me and say, "Vince, my department needs an EMT class," I'm there. Okay. If I have people come in and say, "Hey, I want to be an instructor so I can teach EMT or firefighter one at my department," guess what? I'm there for you. Okay. Same thing goes for the public. And that's a big thing, right? We don't necessarily think about the public as a whole as much as we do like our own firefighters and family. And that's important. All right. Our firefighters and families, really, they come first. But the public, we would not be here doing what we do without John Q. Public. Correct? Everybody in agreements on that? So, perspective from Midwest Iowa. One of the things that always gets thrown around, right? It's the Midwest, it's Iowa, we're Iowa nice, right? Now, I'm from Iowa, born and raised. I've been there my entire life. And so when we say Iowa nice, you know what? I'm proud of it. I'm absolutely proud of that. I see strangers walking down the road, I wave at them. I do the whole thing where I'm driving with one hand. I see somebody, put that finger about them, point at them. Absolutely. And the same thing goes for wanting to reach out to people, right? Iowa is very diverse. The Midwest is becoming very diverse. Maybe not as much as the bigger cities like, New York, Philadelphia, those more populated areas, Chicago especially. But we are becoming more diverse. We have a whole lot of different populations, different ethnicities, coming in. And so when it comes to community risk reduction, that's something that we have to be tucking into the back of our minds as well when we start thinking about these programs and what we're doing. Okay? So I threw something up here on the board. I hope y'all can read it. If not, that's fine. I'll read it for you. Our goal in the fire service has shifted from putting out fires to preventing ourselves out of the job. Okay? There's a guy in Iowa. His name is Jerry Eslick. He was a chief for West Des Moines. Started in Lehigh, Iowa as a volunteer firefighter and kind of ascended the ranks. And he saw gaps in training where, like, different departments, they needed somebody to come in. And so he founded Professional Rescue Innovation. Okay? So PRI. He founded that. And he taught a lot of the classes that I went to in my fire career when I started off very young. And I can remember he taught my instructor one class over there at Station 17 in West Des Moines. And one of the things he said that really, really stuck out to me, and I've carried with me, is that our goal in the fire service has shifted from putting out fires to preventing ourselves out of the job. So what does that mean? What does that mean, Dave? I see a lot of you here in the room. You're quiet. That's no hands in the air. You want to know what's going to happen. That's great. That's great. But guess what? That's going to mean something different to everybody, right? Some people are going to look at that and they say, well, that's not true. Our goal is still to put the wet stuff on the red stuff, put out fires. And you're 100% correct. But, okay, this conference, this is about community risk reduction. It's not about putting wet stuff on the red stuff. So why are we here? Why is that important? And it's because it means change. Okay? And I've always said firefighters are scared of two things, and that's the way things are and change. All right? And that's not going to serve any different for the leaders in the fire service. It's not going to serve any different for the newcomers coming in. It's always going to be the change is scary, right? So, fire prevention in the future. What does this look like for us? Well, faster fires, right? Fires are moving way faster. Our time from ignition to flashover is, we're talking, anywhere from 3 minutes up to, I think for the last burn cell we just did, I'm pretty sure we had flashover in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And that was all modern fuels, urethane couch, particle board nightstand, and, it's intense, it's scary. So faster fires, right? So this is where prevention has got to start playing a role in this. Whether it's early identification or whether it's prevention, whether it's teaching people, hey, don't stick your cell phone under your pillow at night while you're charging it because the battery in it has to have a way to breathe because there's that lithium ion. You don't want it overheating while it's charging. People don't know that. They think, oh, it's just my phone. So they plug it in and they stick it under their pillow. All right, they've got the urethane mattress, they've got the urethane pillows, the My Pillow or the foam ones. And guess what? That heat doesn't have anywhere to go. It sparks it. The room starts going up. Hopefully we've got working smoke detectors still in a lot of the areas. Even in our town, we don't. They start chirping and people pull the battery out of them. They don't think about it. Cheers. I'm sorry about this, guys. I got to have something to drink here. I speak a lot. One of the things I've realized is I got to have something warm or I lose my voice. Some of you are probably thinking, please. Cheers. All right. And that ties into our modern fuel loads versus legacy. Okay. A lot of people don't realize that there's a difference. All right. Especially as this generation gap starts to close. All right. We have people right now that remember back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s, right? When we had those couches that were made of solid block lumber and they were stuffed with the old straw or the old stuffing. And then we started transitioning to the urethanes. And then we started transitioning to the synthetic materials. Excuse me. And now, as this generation gap starts to close, they don't know any better. All right, it's just a couch. All right, I'm just buying a couch from the furniture store. I'm buying it online and having it shipped to me. I don't know what materials it is. I don't know what it's going to look like if, it catches on fire, how fast it's going to go. Christmas trees. Christmas trees are a big one. People don't think about that. Okay, I think that kind of the real Christmas tree thing, I think a lot of those people that are starting to have kids a little younger and whatnot, they want to do the real Christmas tree because they want to have that experience. And they're not necessarily thinking about the fact that you've got to keep it watered or what kind of a fire load it has or how fast they can go up. So that's where we come into play. We have to be able to fill that gap. We have to know what we're looking for. Older populations, okay? We're not just talking about fires. Older populations, what do we have to worry about? Falls, right? Health concerns, meds. We have a lot of things that we, especially with us being EMS driven now, a lot of fire services are doing that. They're going to their own EMS services. We just did in Grinnell not that long ago, back in 2023. Private service that had been in town forever, right? Having trouble keeping staff, wasn't investing back in its equipment or its ambulances, was having trouble getting trucks out the door, was having trouble with staffing. We saw a gap and we filled it. Now the ambulance is sitting out there. We got 2 brand new trucks and a used one sitting out there, good equipment on it, stuff that's checked in on a daily, weekly level. And now we know that they're going to go out the door and they're going to serve the people that are expecting that service. Okay? But do we wait until there's a med error? Do we wait until grandma realizes that, her bedroom shouldn't be upstairs anymore? It should be on the first floor. Do we wait until we, step in and say, hey, it might be time to start thinking about assisted living where you can have a walk-in shower, these things. So these are things that we actually have the ability to pioneer as well because it provides that quality of life and we have the ability to prevent, death, disability, give people that quality of life. And that ties into that fire prevention in the future as well because, again, it's not just firefighting anymore. Data, right? Data is another big thing. NFIRS reporting's been around a long time, and they've identified the gaps. Okay, we found out what kind of data that we're wanting to collect in regard to community risk reduction. That was a big push for the NARIS reporting, is trying to pull those statistics, trying to pull the demographics, trying to pull the ethnicities, trying to pull the income medians, trying to pull what neighborhoods, trying to pull what kind of calls were going on. And so now we have the NARIS reporting system, which is coming in and taking effect, and that is meant to replace NFIRS. NFIRS will be outdated. NARIS is going to give us that ability to pull more in-depth reports to see where our prevention efforts are going to be better put, if that makes any sense. I hope that does. So, operational level prevention. Okay, where does it start? Well, culture follows and flows with the leadership. Okay? If you have leadership that is invested in community risk reduction and invested in prevention, the department and its members will follow. Okay? It's going to follow and flow with your leadership. So, from your chief down to your lieutenants, down to your firefighters, down to the newest guy coming in off the street, down to your volunteers. Your culture is going to follow and flow with the leadership. If these guys are coming in and just solely expecting to be sitting around and waiting for the tones to drop for a fire, they may be waiting a long time. Boredom set in, and then they're going to realize grass is greener on the other side, and they're going to start looking for that next busy fire department to go off to. But if we make that culture, if we make it that operational level prevention, right? Everybody's invested in it. From your smoke detector program, to your school prevention, to your juvenile fire centers, to going into the neighborhoods and identifying gaps, looking at your aging building stock and figuring out if codes are being followed, going into your restaurants, making sure the hoods are clean, And we're not necessarily talking about from an enforcement standpoint, right? We're talking about an education standpoint because education is power, all right? G.I. Joe said it best, right? The more you know. Was that G.I. Joe? No. G.I. Joe was knowledge is power. I'm so sorry. I was a product of 1983. I should know that. I messed that up. That is on me. 100%. So, prevention. right? Prevention saves lives. And we're not just talking about the public, we're talking about our firefighters as well. Because the more prevention we do, especially in like that aging housing stock, or if we have neighborhoods with hoarders, things that we can identify, maybe things that we can help out, we prevent the possible loss of life of firefighters. You know, we have a big push right now in my community to try and identify order houses and get the addresses programmed into our IM responding and our CAD systems and whatnot, because order houses are known to kill firefighters, right? Firefighters go in, they go in looking for people, they go in to do their job, put the wet stuff on the red stuff, and they get turned around, they get lost, and they can't find their way back out. Fire load is immense in a lot of these order houses. And so something that we can do, right? Just as an example, start identifying these order houses, tie in with family, figure out if there's things we can do. What services can we offer to them? Okay. I know there's a big organization right now that they're trying to put together, kind of like what the two men in the truck did. They're offering services to people that don't necessarily have the means to load this stuff up, take it to the dump. They're offering the services of saying, hey, we will come in. We will help you go through this. We will help haul things down to the transfer station so that way we can start freeing some of this up. You can have the room back in your home. And it's working. Guys, it's working. And this is something that the fire department is doing, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of you in the audience are going to be sitting there going, oh, yeah, but what's to say that they don't, have grandma down the street calling at, on a Tuesday and saying, well, I got some things that need to go down. Well, we still have the ability to point these people towards those resources. And yes, I can understand your concern, and that's why your programs have got to be strong. You have to have limits, you have to have policies, you have to have procedures, you have to have your SOGs in order for these programs to work. Community risk reduction is not soft. A lot of new firefighters, they get this mentality when they come in, right? They get their turnout gear, they're coming in fresh off the academy, or they're coming in and they're thinking, this is what we're going to do. We tone drop, we get down, we get in our gear, we drive to the station 80 mile an hour. We get on the truck, we go squirt some water, we put the fire out, we do stuff, and we're heroes. We feel good about ourselves. We go home, shower at the end of the day, and oh, you mean that's just a fraction of it? That's just a fraction of what we do. Well, what else do we do? Well, fighting fire is fun. I won't disagree with that. I won't disagree with that statement. Fighting fire is fun. Absolutely. Uh, because of the messed up individuals that we are, we love it. We love a good fire. But at the end, it is very sad and disheartening when someone loses their home, loses their belongings, loses maybe a family member, God forbid, or we lose a firefighter, even worse. So it's not soft. It's not soft to want to prevent those things. It's admirable. It's admirable that we want to prevent those things, that we want to try and prevent that loss to our department, to our community, to our families, to our friends, to our neighbors. It's not soft. It's something to be proud of. And you have to have expectations from the workforce, and it has to be clear. I worked for a service, where if you came in the morning, you had coffee, and then you went and you did your truck checks, and you cleaned the station, and afterwards, it didn't matter what you did. I can remember there were several times where a lot of the younger guys would bring in TVs and they'd sit them around the conference table and they'd bring in their Xboxes and they'd have their headsets on. They'd be sitting there playing the Fortnite or whatever it is right there. Now, if a call came in, you went, obviously, but that was great. It didn't feel like work, right? It didn't feel like work. It was, you got up in the morning and the shift started early. That was, I remember that, but you got your stuff done. And if you weren't on a call, you did whatever you want. Sounds great. doesn't it? To a new firefighter, new paramedic, new EMT, it's amazing, right? That's the job everybody dreams of. But us sitting in this room, administrators, fire marshals, chiefs, leader, captains, is that sound ideal? Because how much work is going to be expected of us to get done? So we have to make sure that we have expectations of our workforce that this mission, this operational level prevention is being followed. All right. We set that aside. We tell them how important it is. We say, hey, on Tuesday next week, I want you to go into this neighborhood. Go buy a cup of coffee at the coffee shop down the road. Start talking to some of the locals. Look at the building stock. See what's going on. See where we are. Start taking notes. Make observations. See if maybe you can schedule an inspection for one of the restaurants or something. Talk to one of the landlords. Okay? Start investing in that community and seeing what people need. Motivating the population. This is a big one. Because if you don't have trust, okay, people aren't going to listen to you. You've got to be trusted in order for people to follow what you're going to say. Now, how do we do that? Well, I can think of one really awesome example. Okay, so we did a burn cell back in my hometown in Grinnell, over at Grinnell College. Big college campus, whole lot of diverse students. We had students from over in Asia, we had students from over in Bosnia, we had students from down in South Africa, and then of course, we had students from around, and they're young. We're talking 19, 20, and they don't necessarily think about the fire department as the service that shows up when you call 911, right? It's just, I call 911, you show up if you put my fire out, and you put my fire out. Well, we did this burn cell, advertised it, put up flyers. The college helped us do a really good job of advertising it, and we set it up like a dorm. We put modern fuels in there. We put like a bunk bed in there with a urethane style mattress and a my pillow and a backrest and one of them furry bean bags and all that stuff. And then we trying to remember. I'm pretty sure we had just like a cigarette, which obviously no smoking on campus. I know, I'm aware, but dropped a cigarette, and they were able to see the smoke start rising from the urethane mattress, the smoke detector go off, and between the smoke detector going off and the time that you actually had flames and the burn cell was full of smoke, I want to say it was 1 minute and 15 seconds. Not a lot of time, right? Most of you are going to see it and say, yep, yep. And you could look around and you could see the looks on the students' faces. You could see the jaws dropping, the eyes widening. And it was big. Suddenly they were listening, right? Because we had that visual example. We had it. It was real. Okay, it was happening right in front of them. I think time to flash over, we ended up counting. It was like maybe 8 or 9 minutes. Had some guys put some water on it, knock it down, and then they got to come in and see the damage. All right, we had thermal cameras there showing them what was going on. We talked to them about when burns start and what level it is. Talked to them about the carcinogens in the air. And what did we do? We gained their trust. Now they were listening, right? Now they wanted to hear. Now they were cautious about it. All right. So whether it went anywhere or not, I don't know, but we didn't have any fires in the dorms. We've had fires with candles catching curtains. We've had fires with bombs and vapes, and we had laptops and all that stuff. But they recognized it, right? Now they're educated. Now they know. Now they trust. And we met them where they were. We went to the dorm, right? Or the campus. We went to the campus. We went to their territory. We didn't ask them to come here. We went there. Okay? And that's big. You want to go into those neighborhoods. You want to go into those elderly complexes. You want to go into the retirement homes and figure out, what do people need? What would be best here? What prevents us out of a job? And as far as my story about coming into work and getting the work done and playing video games, if you think about it from the standpoint of preventing yourself out of a job, hey, you know, that gives you more time to do that. So that's also leverage you can have on your workforce. And partnerships. Partnerships matter. Think about the organizations in the neighborhood. Think about the businesses. All right. What do people in that neighborhood respect? What are they proud of? What are they going to stand up for? Who are they going to listen for? So those are things that we have to be thinking about as well. And it is so much more than just October. All right. Every October, what do? We have our pancake breakfast, and then we go into schools and we hand out plastic helmets, and the kids get to ask questions and tell stories and squirt the fire hose. Maybe Sparky goes along. Okay, and that's great. You're getting them started young. All right, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's so much more than just October. It has to be year round. Has to be. Everybody always thinks, oh yeah, it's October. That's when the fire trucks come around. That's when the firefighters go to the schools and they teach stop, drop, and roll and all that. That's great. Again, great. Not just waiting that. But this, in this scale, to prevent ourselves out of a job, it's got to be more than just October. So, as a leader in CRR, what do we need to be ready for? Okay. We need to make sure that our leadership is driven by data. And that data is compiled by reports, it's compiled by studying what the national average is on incidents, it's studying NIOSH reports on firefighter injuries and lines of death, it's studying the material that your firefighters bring back from the neighborhoods and the facilities and things they're going into. So your leadership becomes data driven and you can put more focus on leading those people. Professional development, both on yourself as leaders, because let's be honest, that never stops, and it shouldn't. And your subordinates, your firefighters, your new guys to your most experienced, you have to be able to develop them. They have to have communication skills necessary to go in and spark that conversation and make the first move. And awareness of challenges. Okay, funding. Funding is going to be a big one. Where's your funding going to come from? All right, funding to get things started is minimal, right? It does not take a lot in regard to diesel or manpower for guys that are already on shift to go in and grab a cup of coffee at the local bodega and start asking around and start figuring out what people need. When was the last time there was a fire? Well, as Jerry lives upstairs and he's fallen 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Uh-oh. That's something we could probably look into and something we could help out with. And that doesn't cost us much. Your bigger programs like your burn cells and stuff, you got to figure out that's where your personal investors or, like your lumber yards, furniture stores, you can be reaching out for things like that. Because let's be honest, that's going to take lumber, that's going to take drywall, that's going to take donated furniture or bought furniture. Well, hopefully not bought furniture. We don't want to buy furniture just to burn it. And then your data overload, there's going to be a lot of data. Okay? Data overload is going to be a big challenge. You want to make sure that it's organized, that it's approachable, that it's readable. And then your politics. Okay? Politics are going to be a big one. You want to work with your city politics and your local government, not against them. All right? It's important to keep them in the loop because chances are good they're going to be out there for you. Because keeping your city safe and identifying risk factors that you can help prevent is going to make them look good. And they're not going to not want that. And long-term resilience. Okay? Is this something that you're going to go back and say, yeah, this is something we should look at. We should be going on this, start pulling a little bit of data, and you start grabbing conversations, and then it just kind of fizzles out and goes by the wayside? Is it something to where you're maybe looking at retirement and your next in line isn't necessarily going to come in with the same fierceness about prevention as you are, and so your program that you started kind of goes by the wayside? Are you going to have a high enough turnover of your firefighters that you currently have that You're not going to have a lot of continuity for the same people going into the same neighborhoods. It's going to constantly be changing. You have to account for that if this is going to be long term. And we are in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that I've talked more than 20 minutes, and for that I do apologize. I hope that I've held your attention, and I hope that you're taking something away from this. I see some of you taking notes. I appreciate that very much. Please take as many notes. Come and speak to me. But prevention is a response. And this is something that you can take back to those new firefighters or those seasoned firefighters that say, no, I'm just here to put out fire. Okay? Because that's just it. You're here for a response, and prevention is a response. Culture drives your outcome. What kind of culture are you leading at your station? Okay? Are you leading a culture with your firefighters and your lieutenants and your captains that this is important, that this is something they should be invested in? Or is this something that you're saying, I need you to go and make this contact, take some notes, and then bring it back and stick it in this folder? Okay? You've got to be able to build that culture that prevention is a response. And you set the direction. Okay? Wise fire chief that I have a lot of respect for, he told me a lot of times it's not necessarily about making the right call, but it's about motivating people to make the right call. And, you know, if you think about it in that aspect, the right call is that we're here to prevent injury, or we're here to be there for people's worst day. Okay? But if we can be there before their worst day and prevent it, which one holds more weight? What's more important? They may not think about it that way, but we definitely should. Community risk reduction protects communities and responders alike. Say it once and I'll say it again. This is not just about our communities. This is not just about our firefighters. It's about the big picture and keeping it all together. And that's all I got for you, ladies and gentlemen. I know I went over 20 minutes. Again, I do apologize for that. If you have any questions, please ask them now. Otherwise, I will be around. If there's anything I can do for you, anything I can give you, I did bring some business cards that have my work email and my phone number on them. I'd be happy to give those to you in case anything pops up after today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's break time. And after that, I think you have one more presentation, and then I will see you over at the local watering hole for happy hour. Thank you very much.